OG Army. Get those wallets unfolded. Coming up next on the OtherGround live stage, prepare for an eargasm by Passive J and Big Dalton.
Good afternoon, and welcome to yet another edition of OtherGround Live. I'm Passive J. That's Big Dalton over there. Say hello, Ryan.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is June the 12th. It is a Friday, and whoop whoop.
I see the OG Army is forming up in the chat box. Always happy to see you guys along for the ride. How'd your day go, Ryan?
Yeah, it was a day. Had work in there. Kind of a normal Friday. How about you? Did you actually last an entire week at this point of working?
Yeah. Although my week's not over, I still got to work Saturday and Sunday. But it's already been Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so it's most of a week. I'm looking forward to having a day off on Monday. But hey, it's been pretty good. Hectic, crazy shit. I think I broke a record for myself today. I've been there 15 years. I think this is the first time I've had 9 people on hold at the same time. They announced about 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon that they were going to indeed hold a Father's Day barbecue next week instead of just having regular dining. They figured they could take enough precautions that they can do a barbecue style event and still have everyone safe. And then they put on the invitation they sent out the email for that they're going to have a 250 person limit to this thing. Normally we take somewhere between 500 and 700 for our Father's Day barbecue. So I was really busy really quickly as everybody and their grandma tried to call me and get their Father's Day reservations in before it sold out.
Yeah, that sounds thrilling.
It was not thrilling. The only good part of it is like the big boss, who unfortunately is leaving this year, a great boss, best boss I ever had, happened to sit down right near the start of it and watch me go through it for about 15 minutes. So, it's nice to be appreciated. And having a big boss watch you work when it's at its most hectic and still pull it off is always good for some brownie points.
Yeah, maybe. Either that or he was silently judging you for mispronouncing everyone's name.
See, I don't have to worry about that because everyone tells me what their name is. And I just go, oh, hello, sir. How you doing today? Or hello, ma'am. How you doing today? Most of those I can pronounce because it's the same ones over and over again. And a lot of them have the same name, actually. As Jewish surnames, there's only so many of them to go around, apparently. No, it wasn't a bad day at all. It was hectic. I had one personality conflict with someone at work, but hopefully I'll get resolved quickly. Someone making my life harder. When I asked them not to, they said no. So that always sucks, right?
Well, yeah, because you work just so incredibly hard at what you do.
Oh, I do. Hell, I'll tell you why not. As the before mentioned chits that we deal with, one of the sources for that is the dining room. So what happens is the members order their food, servers bring them their food. At the end of the meal, they bring them a chit to sign, and then at the end of their shift, they bring me all of their chits. They might have anywhere between 4 and 20 of them, and I have anywhere between 4 and 6 servers, which means I will deal with anywhere between like 24 to 100 chits during the lunch shift. Excuse me.
Can we call them what they actually are and just receipts? Like, stop using 1940s lingo.
Sorry, it's the lingo at work. It's hard not to do it. So I'll end up with between 20 and 100 receipts. They come out, the receipts print off a computer roll thing. It looks like a cash register paper. So as it gets closer to the end of the roll, it tends to curl up a little bit. And when you have a ton of them, that becomes a problem. That's not what all this is about. The problem is this one server folds her receipts in half while she's carrying them around, and then unfolds them and hands them to me. And so they're all basically folded in half. That by itself is annoying enough. Then you combine it with the problem that we have with the receipts tend to curl over. It makes my job a fucking pain in the ass because all of these receipts have to be stacked up from member number 1 to member number 600. So if you take 100 receipts and try to put them all together, it's gonna be a pain in the ass anyways. Fold some of them in half, then fuck, it's a pain in the ass. You're just sitting there trying to get the pile to stay straight, and it wants to spring sideways and all this bullshit. So I made her what I thought was a pretty reasonable request. Is, hey, do you mind not folding your receipts in half? Well, no. I have to fold them to fit them in my pocket. I'm like, well, none of the other servers fold them. Can you find out the method that they use? Oh, yeah. They just take the receipts and set them off someplace. But I lost mine once, so I'm not doing it that way. I'm like, okay, I can understand that, but it makes it very hard for me to work with them. Could you just, could you find some other way to do it and not fold them in half and put them in your pocket? No.
Oh, so
I think
Jay,
it's a pretty reasonable request.
there's something
Yeah.
out there called a paperweight. You know what you do is you just take all those receipts and you just plop a paperweight on top of them for, I would say a good 30, 40 minutes before you decide to, do all of your collating. And then you solved everyone's problem.
It's not like I haven't done that before. For one thing, I only get them for about like 5-10 minutes before I have to start working with them. And I've tried putting weights on them and things like that. It doesn't work. It's too much of a pain. They're too curled up. So I think that's a pretty reasonable request. And she said, no. I'm like, look, I'm trying to, ask you to do me a favor here. No. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to speak to your supervisor about it then. Yeah, and she went wild and off the, on her merry way. So, and I spoke to her supervisor about it, who was like my best friend at work. So, he's one of the few people at work that I hung out with outside of work. So I'm sure he's going to say something to her, and we'll just see how it goes from there.
Either that or he's going to go to him and be like, yeah, the Langley looking dude with the mush mouth. Yeah, don't pay attention to him. You don't actually work for him. So, just go about your day.
I would hope not, but you never know. The thing is, I've asked her before. This is like the second time. She did it all last year. I asked her at the beginning of the season. She ignored me. I was like, I'm going to let it go. But this year, I've pretty much had enough of people making my life harder for no reason at all. But enough about my complaints. What do you got to talk about today?
Sadly, I don't have like a bunch of stuff today. There wasn't that much good news. The weigh-ins did happen for the fights tomorrow night, and 3 people missed weight, and another person got pulled out for some reason.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I saw some of that stuff. Isn't that kind of ridiculous?
Yeah, so Jessica I misses weight for the second straight fight, yet somehow got a main event spot. What's going on there? Have no idea. The co-main event, Carl Roberson, his second time in a row missing weight. What's going on here?
Worse. And the Robinson one is one that really surprised me. Because he already had issues the last time. This is a rescheduled fight from last time. And he missed it way worse than last time. And he was very self-righteous about it. I had a medical issue, and I've changed my entire diet, and I've got everything locked down. And so to have him miss it by so much, the first time I thought his opponent was kind of being a dick about him missing weight. This time whatever that guy has to say, he's probably pretty justified about it.
Regardless, this is 3 people missing weight on the same damn card. And and then Jessica I takes to Twitter and shit like that and is all like, well, we only did this was all short notice, so I'm super proud only being a quarter of a pound over. It's like, no, do your fucking job next time.
It wasn't that short of a notice. I knew about it. They didn't call her yesterday and say, hey, there was the person who had 2 weeks short notice, and I think he missed it by a half a pound or something like that. So, she knew about this at least a month and a half ago, didn't she?
Yeah, and that's the thing.
We've been making,
Well, so the other guy, the third guy,
for a while.
The third guy you're talking that was really actually short notice, missed weight by 2.5 pounds.
Oh, that's a little high, but
he took the fight on 3 days' notice.
Right. Yeah, but still, okay. Yeah, there you go. So his weight was whatever it's going to be. He couldn't do anything about that, really.
Right. Whereas Jessica I is acting self-righteous after missing weight twice in a row now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I didn't see the. I saw someone retweet one of her tweets about saying, about I can't believe how much hate and arrogance is in this world, or some shit like that. It's like, dude, just keep your mouth shut and keep your head down, okay? That's just that's
apologize
just
for not making weight. Go about it. Try to perform well, which probably isn't going to happen. This is a woman's fight, and it's 5 rounds. And if you completely blew weight like that, by the time you get to round 3, you're probably going to look like garbage.
Right. Oh, here's a quote. What happened to our world that people are so full of hate and ignorances? Plural. That's awesome. But yeah, that's the thing, now, granted, she didn't miss it by much, but it looks like she killed herself to do it. I think I saw a Twitter thing where she said that she couldn't stand at the end of it. So she's going to have a great fight tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. She's going to lose, and then she's going to blame it on everyone but herself.
Oh,
and then we'll go from there.
Once again. I never knew what the hype train on her was in the first place. Yeah, she won some fights, but meh, I don't know. Certain fighters, they just don't do nothing for me. And she just, to me, and you know me, I love it, women's MMA, but I didn't really care about her.
Well, I mean, yeah, she's not that great. Like, look at her UFC record, right? So in the UFC, God, what is she? It doesn't say, but like overall, she's 15-7.
I mean, and there are worse things in the world than the fighters that are basically go two wins and a loss over and over again, because that's about what her record is.
Well, it's really not, though, because when she got in the UFC, like, she had a no contest for Sarah Kaufman, then lost 5 out of her next 6.
Holy shit!
Then rattled off.
Got into the UFC.
Yeah, and then rattled off 3 wins, and then got her head kicked off by Shevchenko, and then she won 1 fight in a boring decision in which she missed weight.
How is she in the UFC? I mean, holy shit! They'll fire somebody at the drop of a hat for 3 losses in a row, and she had 6.
She had 5 out of 6, 5 losses out of 6 fights, including 4 in a row.
Right, in a division, in women's MMA, which admittedly has less eyes on it than the men's MMA, because I've had people tell me over and over they don't care about women's MMA, and that's the UG, so it might not be the correct audience to get the kind of opinion from. But other than the big stars, as far as I know, no one gives a crap about women's MMA. That's one of the reasons I like it. Is I feel like a MMA hipster. But so she doesn't really have much of a leg. But I'm sorry, I forgot where I was going with that. So I can't believe they didn't fire her. There was no value to this lady to the UFC except for to lose to other people, apparently.
Yeah, like I don't get the hype at all. She's gonna lose the fight tomorrow anyway, but now she's gonna use this as a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just don't get it. Well, I guess I just don't even get how this was a main event to start with.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. We've mentioned before they're just reaching for whatever they can at this point to fill up cards, and I guess there's only so many people that are willing to fight without proper training camps and in this kind of conditions. So they got what they got. I guess it's better than no fights at all. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like I have absolutely no desire to watch the fights tomorrow, and like that's something. Like I don't even know if I will go back and watch anything like Sunday morning.
Right. I've already said I'm gonna. Yeah. Well, I'm probably gonna highlight reel it on Sunday at some point. But I'm not too concerned about the actual fights. Yeah. I can't imagine any of them will be too spectacular. None of them are really. Well, that's funny, and that's why the I fight's actually the main event, because it's one of the few ones that has any kind of title ramifications. Because she supposedly is still a contender. I think I read.
How is she a contender? Like, really?
I have no fucking clue. but I read something that said, "Oh, she needs a win to get another title shot." I'm like, you'd think she needs a whole bunch of them, but maybe that's not. We all see how the UFC works.
That's absolute garbage. Like, she beat someone I've never even heard of in a boring decision after missing weight. Her fight before that was getting absolutely destroyed by the champ. And then she comes into this fight and somehow is going to get another title shot after not really earning anything? I don't think so.
Well, you don't think so. It's like you don't watch the UFC or something, dude. I would fully expect her to get a fucking title shot. Like if she had a spectacular fight and just destroyed this other chick. All of a sudden it's, she only missed it by a quarter of a pound. Look how good she looked. She definitely deserves a title shot. I know exactly how Dana thinks. It's whatever gets the most eyes on his product and sells the most. He doesn't give a shit about rankings and shit like that.
Yeah, but this isn't going to sell the most.
Well, for a women's MMA fight,
it's still not going to.
This. Well, yeah, I know, but he's going to do what he can. If he thinks that she's got some buzz behind her, that's what will happen. Just because that's the only way. How often does he get buzz on his women's division? He's got like 4 or 5 big stars for the women, and that's about it.
Yeah, and Jessica is not one of them.
No, and she probably never will be. But like we've seen it happen over and over again, where Dana will push somebody that doesn't deserve a shot because he thinks that's the popular thing to do. What will get him the most eyes in his product.
I mean, I guess there is the whole fact that like that division, there's not a whole lot of talent out there. Like,
And
what
they're
are
in the
the rankings there?
she's in the 135, isn't she?
Are you kidding me? They actually do have her listed as the number one ranked fighter.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I
That
wasn't
is the
kidding.
dumbest thing I have ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty silly. I don't know. I guess what it really means is, for one thing, the UFC should not be able to do their own rankings. It should be like an actual official thing. That would preclude people from getting fucking screwed over in title shots and things like that, because Uncle Dana thinks someone else should get a shot instead. Like the entire McGregor thing. Yeah, he's a great fighter. Yeah, he's fun to watch, but he was gifted so many undeserved fucking shots. And him in.
Yeah, whatever. Although it is funny, now that I am looking through the rankings, there's not even a set of rankings for women's featherweight.
Oh, really?
So 145, where Nunes just beat the shit out of what's-her-face, Canadian lady.
Yeah.
There's not even rankings. It's just Amanda Nunes, champion. That's it.
That's just lazy. They're like, we don't even know. We don't even know. It's her and everybody else. Yeah. Shit, dude. 145 has always been pretty thin anyways.
Well, they don't have anyone.
No, which always surprised me, because let's be honest, when you get into women fighters, you would think that you'd see a lot of like 145 and 155 and 165. I've seen some big old ladies before that, could probably fight like 185 and, not be fat. I mean, that's probably about the top end of the women's heavyweight division, but I'm surprised there's not more weight classes higher than that, because I think we all know at least one or two larger women.
Yeah, but they aren't in shape
one.
like fighters.
No, I mean, I don't mean fat people. I mean, like, I've known a couple women that were just big boned and shit, My wife would look fucking skinny as fuck at 135. She's 5'8", 5'9". She's supposed to weigh around 150 or so at the bare minimum.
Yeah, but like, you're not exactly the most athletic household in the world.
Hey, she was in the Navy. Don't like put her in the same thing as me. We're completely different people. She's actually an athletic person. She was in the Navy, served over in Italy and stuff like that. She took karate. I think she's a red belt or something like that. When she was a teenager and shit like that. So compared to me, she's very much the athletic person.
Yeah, but compared to like actual high level athletes, like, she's not.
No, she would probably fight at 145. But there's, I mean, if she did that shit, if she did the UFC and got into like that type of shape, but she's not super big. She's like 5'8" or 5'9". I've seen 6-foot women out there that, will probably weigh a good 160, 170, fit and taunt, or at least higher up than 145.
Yeah, but you don't see many of them. Like I said, like, it's just not.
Yeah.
There's not enough of a population there that they're getting in fight shape and wanting to compete.
I guess for the same reason the UFC doesn't have anything over 265, because while there are people out there like that, there's so few of them, you can't really make it the division out of it.
The only thing that sucks with like stuff like that, though, is like, just think like prime horse meat Overeem and Lesnar and guys like that were actually having to suck down to 265. Like, just think how scary those dudes would have been at like 305.
Right, exactly. Where they didn't have to dehydrate themselves and fuck themselves up pretty much for a week to make weight. Yeah, no, I agree. That would be fun. I always wish that there was at least one more weight division. I think there should be like heavyweight go up to from 205 to 235, and then super heavyweights anything over 205, and it shouldn't have over 235, and it shouldn't have a cap.
Yeah, there should be something without a cap out there. Just so you could get, like I said, like prime Lesnar with traps to his fucking ears, or Bob Sapp before he learned that he doesn't like getting punched in the face.
Right. God damn, that Bob Sapp disappoints me so much. That is someone who absolutely could have won every fucking belt out there in the entire fucking world. He was gigantic, super strong, really skilled for his size. I mean, you don't beat Ernesto. I'm gonna fuck up his name. You know who I'm talking about, right? Hoost.
Jesus Christ,
yeah.
I mean, you pretty much had it right. It's Ernesto Hoost.
Yeah, I get. I faltered. I became unconfident. You don't beat him twice if you're not really fucking good. He just decided at one point, getting hit in the face was not worth the money he was getting paid, when he could get paid almost as much just to fucking throw the fights. I mean, don't blame him. I don't want to get punched in the face either. But man, that's such a disappointment. I liked him. He seemed like a cool dude. You know, a gigantic guy. Had a minor movie career. I think he could have done so much more.
Yeah, I don't know. He was what he was.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. But here's an example of why they should have open weight classes. People ponder over and over again what would have happened if Shaquille O'Neal had went into MMA instead of basketball when he was like 15 and 16 and been training from a young age. How much of a badass he'd be. I'm like, well, we'll never know. He couldn't have gotten into the UFC. He's too fucking big. There's not a chance in hell that Shaq could have cut down to 265 at any point in his life. At least after the age of 18. When he was in the NBA, he was, when he was slim as he could possibly be, he was 325.
Yeah,
now he weighs like 400 pounds.
Let's be real here. All of the actual super athletes go into like professional team sports. I mean, Shaq probably made more in college than he would have in the UFC.
Oh yeah. There's a reason that you don't see any of these other like you said, super athletes in the UFC. It's way more profitable than anything else. The only reason we got John Jones is because he knocked up his girlfriend and needed the money.
Well, and he's not a super athlete. Like his brothers are super athletes. He is the least athletic person in his family.
Yeah, that still puts him as a super athlete. He just not as good as his brothers, but he still. I think he could have had a career in sports otherwise. What was he into, wrestling? Was that his sport?
Yeah, but he wasn't like high. Like he wasn't going to go out there and beat like a Jordan Burroughs.
Yeah.
Like in order to have a like career in wrestling, like you're talking guys that have to go out there and win national titles like multiple times and step up to the world stage and win tournaments or make the Olympic team, things like that. And John Jones was never going to get close to that.
See, and that's funny. Someone who's not quite an elite athlete fucked up everyone in the UFC because he's still that much better than everybody else.
Yeah, he's like the next step down from an absolute like freak athlete. It's the same thing. If we would have got Yoel Romero in the UFC when he was 30, like that dude would have been the absolute scariest man on earth.
Yeah. A decade later, he's still almost the scariest man on earth.
Yeah, he's like that 42, 43, and like nobody wants to fight that guy.
Yeah, well, that's a no-win thing, If you win, it's like, yeah, dude, you beat a 44-year-old guy. If you lose, a 44-year-old guy just kicked your fucking ass.
It's more like nobody wants to get hit by that guy.
Yeah, that too. That's why, but that's why it's a no-win situation. It's a really dangerous fight, and people, if you beat him, you're like, oh yeah, he's old. You couldn't beat him in his prime. So yeah, I can see why no one wants to do that. Also, I gotta put my dog down.
Really though, it is more so like it's a no-win situation because the only way you can beat him is fighting like ridiculously careful, like Adesanya did.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one can actually have a good-looking fight and beat that guy.
Right. Well, I'm sure there's other people out there like that. Who do you think would be another example of someone that you can't really have a good-looking fight with because he's how dangerous he is?
Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero. Uberim. TRT Vitor.
Yeah, oh yeah, God, that guy was scary.
We'll give those two kind of their shine there too.
Yep. Well, shit. What else you got, boss?
That's all I had. There's like not much really out there at this point. There was one slight thing. I saw one of the most ridiculous things that, like, why anyone would ever actually have to do this. But there are a lot of dumb people out there. But USA Today actually had to post a fact check that Bill Gates is not trying to put microchips in everyone by introducing a COVID vaccine.
We've talked about conspiracy theories before. Some of them are fun. Some of them are even true. But come on, there is something, I can't believe that people can hear stuff like that and go, oh yeah, that sounds like something Bill Gates would do. Yeah.
Half the OG thinks it. You've seen him.
Damn it, dude.
They think that he wants to completely like put microchips in the entire world and start doing like eugenics and shit like that, trying to population control and all sorts of crazy shit.
Shit, dude. Half the OG needs someone to help them wipe themselves after they take a shit. I wouldn't go by that too much.
Well, it just shows how many stupid people there are.
Yep, there's the theme of our show. Once again, stupid people doing stupid things.
Fucking stupid people, I swear.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. I actually have topics. Some. Why not? Let's do some of those. Did you hear Lady Antebellum's changing their name?
No, I don't even know who that is to start.
I assume it's a country band because they're from the South, and that's what the problem is. Because apparently antebellum means before the war, so I guess that means they're fucking racists and they have to change their name.
I just figured they would have changed their name because it's a dumb name and it's too long.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing is? I've never seen anybody use the word antebellum as ever in my entire life. I see the article about Lady Antebellum changing their name to Lady A, which is way better, obviously. And like 2 hours later, I'm reading an article that someone about talking about the Civil War statues, and someone uses it in the article. And I swear to fucking God, that guy read this story about Lady Antebellum, went, "Oh, that's what that word means," and immediately went to write a story to use it.
Yeah, I don't know. No band should have more than 3 syllables. Just gonna put it there. You have more than 3 syllables, you're not a real band. You're gonna fail.
Metallica. Okay, your rule sucks, dude.
No,
Sorry,
that's Metallica's stupid name. Too many syllables. There's a reason they fell the fuck off. They would have they would have had some staying power if they would have just trimmed a fucking syllable.
I don't even know how the fuck. What syllable would you take out of that? Dude, you're hurting my brain.
I don't know. One of them.
I mean, it works for lots of bands. Mega Death, which is weird because Mega Death is a longer word than Metallica. So why does Metallica get more syllables? The way English language is fucking weird. It really is. You know, I've pondered on like, why is tear and tear the same fucking word? It's the same word. I had to use it in a sentence the other day, and I spent like 15 minutes Googling shit to make sure I spelt it right because I was like, that's wrong. Like I said, the English language is weird. I can't understand how anybody from another country could ever learn our shit. It's really complicated and fucked up. Someone said the English language is like 3 other languages wearing a coat trying to look like one person.
We do have the absolute most advanced language for no goddamn reason.
Yeah, like needlessly complex. And that's why it always amazed me when you'd hear someone speaking like what is obviously not their native tongue, and people give them crap about their, you know, about their accents or using words and things like that wrong. I'm like, dude, can you speak another language? Well, no, but I live in America. I'm like, we're not talking about America. We're talking about the fact that that guy's probably way fucking smarter than you, and you're making fun of him. You think you might want to rethink that.
Just the fact that we have 3 different forms of there, and they all mean different things.
Yeah, it's just such a weird thing. I was never really good at the English part. I was good at, well, I don't know. I was good at the English part as far as like word structure and things like that. I'm horrible at spelling. Spell check is the greatest thing that's been ever created. But mostly I was good at reading. I was good at word structure and stuff like that because I really like to read. So I saw examples of the written word over and over again, how sentences are supposed to be made. The way that people talk and post on the internet today is a fucking travesty, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's almost as bad as listening to you try to speak.
Well, yeah, but we all know that that's my problem. But when I write, you've heard me post on the internet. I try to be articulate and I don't use slang. I try not to use conjunction. Fuck, I can't remember the name of that shit. That's the worst thing about English is I know what all these words are. I can't remember what the names for half that shit is. You know, like, you know, I know adverbs and adjectives and all that good shit. But there's so many other like things.
Goddamn, Jay. Goddamn.
Okay, let me see what else I got today. I think it's time to move on to a different subject before I fuck up some more words. Let's see. Oh, where did my fucking thing go? Hold on, I gotta reopen my notes. It went away. There we go. Speaking of people doing things because of the protests, apparently HBO Max has pulled Gone with the Wind off of its service because of its depiction of slavery in the South before the war.
Good. It's a movie from like 70 years ago. It's garbage now anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But this I think is kind of a dangerous slope. Now you're going to remove any media that shows something that you don't like. As much as people hate to admit it, slavery did happen. The Civil War did happen. Erasing any fictional accounts of that is not how you go about this shit, dude.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying get rid of it for that reason. I'm saying get rid of it because it's old and stupid.
Well, that sort of problem kind of solves itself. When's the last time you heard of someone saying, "Oh, I got to go watch Gone with the Wind"? I mean, shit, I'm surprised that HBO Max even put it on their service. Mostly, I guess, because they probably have had it for free in their vaults for 50 years. Um, but seriously, who's watching the movie anyways? So why would you bother? Although I did say, and to make it even worse, they're not just going to delete it. They said they've had it removed from their service, which means they're probably going to put it back. Now, there's the thing: are they going to wait until the protests die down and put it back on, or far more likely, are they going to spend a bunch of money to re-edit it and take out anything offensive and put it back on their service?
I say they just delete everything pre-1970 and give me a new fucking season of The Wire. Let's just go there.
There you go. Yeah, you really want to lose all those Charlie Chaplin films?
I give absolutely zero fucks about Charlie Chaplin.
Well, okay, but speaking of old stuff, you are younger than me, but you're not terribly younger than me. So depending on what your TV habits were when you were a child, do you remember any of the really old TV kid shows and stuff like that? I'm talking stuff like The Little Rascals.
Like, I've heard of The Little Rascals, and I think I may have watched about 8 minutes, and it was garbage.
Well, it was black and white. It was like I think that's from the 50s at that point. How about like Laurel and Hardy or the Three Stooges? Laurel and Hardy would probably be a little bit before even my time, but how about the Three Stooges?
It was still pretty much garbage.
Well, I know you had to watch stuff when you were a kid. What kind of TV shows do you look back on fondly from your childhood?
I have no earthly idea, actually. I didn't watch a ton of TV as a kid. I was out doing things.
Well, I was forced out of the house every day. During the summer, like when you got up in the morning, my mom fed us breakfast and said, "Flee, go away." You came back at noon for lunch, and you got kicked out of the house again. And you came home for dinner, and then you got kicked out of the house until about 8 or 9 o'clock, and then you came home and went to bed. We weren't allowed to be in our house if it was nice out during when we weren't in school. That's pretty much the rule. So I didn't watch a lot of TV growing up as a kid. That's why I appreciated the times that I did have to watch TV because I felt deprived. I felt all my friends watch TV all the time. I had to be outside. So I have all kinds of kid shows that remember fondly. I remember going over to my friend's house and watching Robotech all the time, which was a kids TV show that was unique in that it was from Japan. And this is like the early 80s. It was one of the very first cartoons that had like I don't know what the proper phrase for is, sequential episodes where each episode was a unique one and you had to watch them in order, as opposed to cartoons before that was stuff like Looney Tunes or fucking Scooby-Doo. All the episodes stood on their own. It didn't matter which order you watched them in.
So something like episodic is what you're looking for.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's very episodic. And it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like that as a kid. Telling a continuing story from season to season, even. So it blew me the fuck away. It was one of my favorite shows as I was a kid. Unfortunately, I tried to watch some of it like a couple of years ago, and it doesn't. The animation and stuff doesn't really hold up. But I still have very fond memories of it.
Of course, it doesn't hold up. It's old and shit.
Fine. All right, well, let's see what else we got today. Okay, since we're on the subject of people changing shit, did you see that Disney is having people petition them to change Splash Mountain?
No, haven't heard that. What's the dumb reason for it?
Because Splash Mountain was based on the old movie Song of the South.
It's a fucking splash water ride. Like every goddamn amusement park in the world has one.
Yeah. Right, but I guess the trappings in the background are from Song of the South, which is admittedly a really fucking racist cartoon. Have you ever seen Song of the South or heard about it, dude?
No, it sounds like it's probably old and stupid, but the ride is, classic.
Right, exactly. Well, in this case, Disney will probably go ahead and fold and do this because it would probably only cost Disney a couple million to remodel the ride. They don't have to do anything except for change the backgrounds and shit like that, probably. But Song of the South is about a plantation worker named Uncle Remus who tells white children stories to amuse them about these animals, Briar Rabbit and Briar Wolf, and and all these funny tales, and it's really fucking racist, dude. There's very few cases where I think that it's probably a good idea to go ahead and not show stuff anymore, because we just had this entire conversation about how I think you should changing stuff because it offends people that's been okay is stupid, but this is pretty fucking bad, dude.
Fine, you know what? Go ahead, remodel Splash Mountain, and give Elmer Fudd his fucking gun back!
There's quite the commotion about that online. I haven't heard anybody who thinks it's a good idea to take Elmer Fudd's gun away from him. I mean, he's supposed to be a hunter. He hunts things. At the very least, give the fucker a bow and arrow, a crossbow, I don't know, something. He's really supposed to hunt rabbits with a scythe. And why is that better? So, because there's all this gun violence out there. Well, fucking now you're just going to encourage scythe violence. You really want that? Have you ever seen a scythe? You don't want to get hit with a scythe. It's going to fucking hurt. Probably worse than a bullet. Well, a bullet doesn't cut off fucking legs and arms and shit.
Disney is fucking racist against hunters, and that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Conservation is a required goddamn thing. Otherwise, we're just going to be up to our ears in fucking deer everywhere, running into our goddamn cars, all because Disney decides that Elmer Fudd doesn't need a gun, so kids don't grow up saying, hey, I want to fucking hunt. God damn it.
No. Instead, they're going to be going around swinging swords and scythes and various things at people. And 20 years from now, we're going to have an entire generation of people with no arms and legs. It's going to just a goddamn generation of stumps. And who wants that? That's a horrible thing. Why would Disney do that to our future generations? Disney is trying to hurt our kids.
No, those goddamn kids are going to look at the fucking scythes, and then they're going to end up just becoming LARPers because you can't just go out and buy scythes anywhere anyway. Then we're going to have a bunch of fucking fat, overweight, lazy kids going, fireball, fireball.
Okay, so no change really is what you're saying.
There's at least some athlete or athletic kids out there. There's, kids that learn to hunt when they're 10, 12 years old. But no, Disney's trying to deprive generations of growing up to be men.
Yeah, you know what? There's something to that. I mean, I don't know how many kids were actually inspired to hunt by Elmer Fudd, but I mean, that was a lot of kids' first exposure to hunters and hunting. Granted, it wasn't exactly a good one. No one wants to be Elmer Fudd when it comes to hunting. You don't want your prey to outwit you and steal your gun and then dress up like a woman and make you think it's, make you fall in love with it. I don't want to fall in love with deer. Elmer needs his gun. I don't know. I've lost track of what I'm saying.
Regardless, it's goddamn Looney Tunes. We also cut off Florida, which was actually something we should try doing.
Yeah, turns out Bugs was forward thinking. Yeah, maybe he was, knew what was coming. Because holy fuck, Florida is weird. How could a place with such nice weather have such weird people in it? I don't know. I don't understand.
I don't know if it's just like it's too much sun or what it is, but god damn, Florida is its own goddamn country, and it's like it's almost like Mexico, but there are laws there, kind of. I don't know.
Did you see that video of I have no clue what was happening, but I guess in Miami, some cops were driving through the protests. A whole bunch of people started jumping down their cars and shit like that, and then one of them swung a skateboard at the windshield, and 8 or 9 of them popped out of it like it was a fucking clown car and just started whooping ass. And they had to whoop ass. The crowd attacked them. People were swinging skateboards at their heads and shit like that when they try to take someone down to arrest them, and 4 people would swarm them and start kicking them and shit. And these fucking I don't know, dude. Maybe they're like a special martial arts team or something like that. They just fucking kicked ass. I mean, they've ended that shit fairly quickly, and in a situation where it looked like they were gonna get overwhelmed at first.
What do you expect? It's goddamn Florida. They were the only ones crazy enough to try bath salts.
Yeah. I've been to Florida once, and it seemed very nice. But then again, I was there in January and February. the off season for tourists, and I didn't really meet any other Florida people except for my wife's parents who live down there.
Like, there's some areas that aren't too bad. Like, St. Petersburg isn't bad. Tampa's not bad. But, like, when you get to, like, super redneck rural Florida, like, it's its own goddamn world.
I think that's what the problem was. I was never in rural Florida. I was in touristy Florida, which is also its own world, one controlled by Disney.
Fuck Disney.
Ah, shit, dude. I don't know. Did you see that California is banning private prisons and detention centers?
Absolutely. Good for them.
Yep. That's one of those ones that, I was worried about it at first. I was like, man, that's going to be hard to implement. But then it turns out they only have like 6 prisons that are for profit with like 5,000 people in them. I'm like, yeah, that sounds more like an experiment that it didn't work as opposed to like a full-fledged program. So I don't see any issues with turning it that way. It's funny because there are good points for profit prisons, but they're so easy to let it go astray that it's just a bad thing to get into in general.
Well, you can't have something that's for profit that completely is dependent on making sure that there are criminals.
Right. That's a slippery slope right off the bat. One second, I gotta take a drink of water.
Well, and it completely gets rid of the entire idea of having like our justice system. Like, at that point, there is no rehabilitation. Like, that is not part of the system anymore when you have private prisons. Right, it's really about exactly. Keeping people in there as long as they can, so they keep getting paid by the tax dollars and getting more people in over time. That's why the private prisons, they try to have them as overcrowded as possible. They want every head they can possibly get in there. It's also going to be the worst conditions because they want to turn the most profit that they can, because they're getting a set amount for each person that they're housing. Like, I completely get the idea that people think that the government can't run anything very well. And they're probably right about that. The government doesn't do a very good job of controlling much. However, there are certain things you can't just push on the free market and let that just ride. And the prison system is one of them.
That's interesting. In reality, probably the best way to set it up would be like a nonprofit organization that ran the prisons. Something that's not controlled by the government, because we all know how good the government is at running shit. But not a profit corporation. Because that would give you would think the people running it the proper motivation. They don't get paid per person in there or anything like that. The institution gets a certain amount of money to run, and that's that. So,
or you do something completely unconventional. You do something along those lines that it's not for profit or something like that, but you give a financial benefit to the prisons that have the lowest rate of recidivism.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So then they actually focus on reforming people as opposed to just punishing them over time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I wouldn't have any problems with that at all. And
like, I would love to see like a pilot like that. Just I don't care what, maybe California is the right place to do it, but do something like that to where, and yes, it could be like a private type of prison, but do something where like you legislate part of it to where they cannot have like a lobbying arm or anything like that, but they'll get the certain amount of budget, whatever it is, and then on top of that, they can make markedly more if their recidivism rates are low. That's actually a hard word for me. Yeah. What the fuck?
yeah, and that's a good idea because that way they get bonus. It's like all these people get their paycheck, and at the end of the year, if the rate's low enough, then you get a bonus too. So that gives them an incentive to do that while still being able to maintain a prison too, because as sad as it is, there are people that you're not going to be able to help. There's career criminals that are just going to be in prison for as many times as you catch them, and whenever you let them out, they're going to commit more crimes. And I think part of the problem, I see this over and over again on a lot of the prison shows that I watch, is I don't think that they segregate prisoners good enough. I've seen over and over again people that go into prison for relatively minor crimes, and when they come out, they're a hardened criminal because they were put in with other hardened criminals who taught them how to do it better. And there should be a way to be able to pick out those people and set them on a right path and keep them away from the people that are going to be a bad influence on them while they're in prison.
Well, and the problem is the way that the system is right now, they give zero fucks about that. They don't care if you come in as someone that passed off a couple bad checks and then you get back out and you start killing people. Like, you're still just another head in a bed for them. Like, we do need to get to the point where, like, rehabilitation is an actual thing in getting people back into society the right way and have some sort of, benefit to do that. Because right now, like, they don't care. They really don't.
And I was surprised, considering what a big problem people think it is, that at least in California, it was only like 2 prisons with 5,000 people or something or 5 prisons. There's the total number of prisoners is like 5,000. Is it a bigger problem in other states? Or like, are there states where the majority of their prisoners are in for-profit prisons?
It's a pretty big thing countrywide.
Huh. Well, I mean, because I don't consider that a big thing in California. 5,000 prisoners. They have the largest prison system in the country, I believe. They have to have probably. I don't. You know what? I guess I'm talking to my ass. I don't know. I would assume California has way more than 5,000 prisoners total, and that's only a small segment of it.
Yeah. So for the most part, like, there's some stuff that never really ends up in private prisons. Like a lot of your federal prison system. I don't think you really see any of that. But I think the numbers are somewhere around 10% of all inmates are in private prisons.
How many? You said 10%?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's enough to be disturbing, but I thought it was a way bigger problem from the way people talked about it. Obviously, you don't want 10% of anybody to be shit on, but the way people talked about it, I thought it was something that was taking over the nation.
Yeah, no, because there are limits of what those prisons can be. But yeah, it's just one of those things. And Stray, yes, a lot of criminals have zero interest in being rehabilitated. But if you put a financial carrot out there for those running the system, they're going to do a lot better job of even taking criminals that have zero interest in being rehabilitated and finding some interest in being rehabilitated. It's all about having the right motivation for people. And if you start putting dollars behind it for the people that are in charge, they're going to find a way to, and it'll never be perfect. It'll never be anywhere near perfect, but they'll find a way to make it better.
Yeah. I mean, realistically speaking, all the measures that you put in and all that good stuff might only reduce the rates by 10%. Because as Stray points out, lots of them aren't interested in being rehabilitated. But I think 10% is enough to make it worthwhile. If if I just looked it up, California has 115,000 people in its prison system right now, and let's say normally 20,000 of them are going to be rehabilitated, and 80,000 and 95,000 of them are going to go on to commit crimes again. If you can raise that up to even 30,000 of them are going to be rehabilitated, that's a significant amount of people. And then you combine that, from all the states in the nation, and all of a sudden, you're having 500,000 people or 300,000 people a year that don't commit crimes anymore. Yes, it's only a small increase, but you're right, it's probably worth doing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we also just need to take a look at what we're really throwing people in prison for. There was a story just a couple days ago, and it may have even been sooner, but so in Alabama, there's this habitual offender law or something like that. There's a guy right now, I think he's 60, 65 years old. He's partway through a 38-year prison sentence for stealing $9.
Jesus. Oh, but because he done a whole bunch of shit before, they did the 3 strikes rule.
Yep.
See, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think people who are repeat offenders obviously should be treated more harshly because they seriously aren't learning their lesson. And at a certain point, you need to do something about it. But there has to be a matter of perspective in there. At the worst, I think you should be able to, double or triple someone's sentence. And what kind of sentence should you be getting for stealing $9? That's petty theft. That's not even a jail term normally. That's a fine or some shit like that. I mean, I'm sure there are more circumstances to it than just that about him getting 36 years from it, probably breaking probation and this, that, and the other. But in no sane world is that an appropriate sentence.
No, it wasn't for like breaking probation or anything like that. He was out. He had 3 previous convictions from earlier on in his life. And then this was like 20 some years ago, I think, somewhere in there. But yeah, he stole $9 and got 38 years.
Seriously, I mean, fucking aren't there federal guidelines? I mean, I guess
no, it's that law for them. It's a habitual offender that basically that guy got arrested for anything. He's in jail for decades.
Wow. God, I mean, yeah, I guess you would think judges should have a little more discretion than that. But I hear all the time judges saying, that they're, the other way, that they can't give them more time. So I guess there are minimums that they have to follow. So that might not even necessarily be the judge's fault, I guess. Huh?
Well, yeah, mandatory minimums are a crock of shit. Like,
yeah,
I know,
I agree.
I've known a lot of lawyers, and a lot of them are kind of pieces of shit, but like, that's one thing you hear from them is like, especially on the defense side, is they'll have these people that are brought up for almost just complete bullshit, and they end up having to plead down because if they ended up going to trial for what they're originally charged for, like they would catch this mandatory minimum for like 30 years for something that's just complete bullshit.
Right. So they end up pleading down to something they didn't do in the first place just to avoid not going to prison for their entire life.
Well, that's the other problem with our legal system is like how they will stack charges every chance they get just to be able to have people plead out. So people will never try to fight charges even if they were not in the wrong. Because they know that now there's like 10 charges on them.
Yeah. I see Stray say that mandatory sentences are not garbage in relations to firearm, drugs, and violent offenses. No, I don't have a problem with that statement. There are certain things that should have a mandatory sentence.
Well, no, I will put it this way. I do not agree with any mandatory minimum because in situations like that, you're talking about like drugs and violent offenses and shit like that.
Or drug dealing, I guess.
Drug dealing, so that's another one where they will find someone with just enough to consider it like trafficking. And it's a person that just had bought like a half pound or something for their own use. Like there are people that get fucked into the system for drug trafficking or intent to distribute and shit like that should never be there. But back to the mandatory minimum piece. Like I understand the idea that yes, for murder, you should never get less than like 50 years or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But by having mandatory minimums there, even in the craziest of circumstances, you can never go below that. But like in every other instance, even if you didn't have a mandatory minimum there, what judge is going to sentence someone to less than 50 years for killing someone? And if they do, it's going to end up being a huge story that blows back on them. Like that idiot in Utah with all the kiddie porn and bestiality shit that got like 18 months in jail.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny because I guess I'm wishy-washy because I kind of agree with both you guys. I can understand where Stray's coming from. There are certain things that definitely need to have, mandatory minimums, mandatory sentencing because, and I understand why you're saying there shouldn't be, because judges should have to have discretion. And that's part of the reason why I believe Stray probably thinks that there should be minimums, because if you give judges discretion, well, then all of a sudden if you get not honest judges, you're getting issues where people are not being sentenced appropriately.
Yeah, judges are fucked, and there are a lot of people out there that get fucked by the system by things like mandatory minimums.
Yeah,
so you have to start to at some point. Yeah, at some point you have to get to the point where you can fucking trust your goddamn judges to do the right thing. Like, how broken of a system do we have that you can't trust judges to give out the right type of sentencing? So you have to write in a mandatory minimum that completely removes any sort of judgment call in the rare case that they should be getting less.
You know what? I think that's a good way to put it. In a perfect world, Ryan, you would be 100% correct. We should have judges that we can trust to sentence appropriately without having to worry about giving them guidelines. But in the world that we live in, I happen to think that Stray's correct because there's so many corrupt judges out there and judges that shouldn't be judges and judges making wacky decisions that there should be minimums for certain crimes.
And Stray, the tough part is a majority of our judges are also appointed. Like, you don't have a lot of elected judges here.
Yeah. I don't know. I only vote on the major shit. I don't pay attention to most of the local politics. I don't recall seeing that kind of thing in my ballots.
But like all of your federal judges are pretty much all appointed.
Mm.
And the problem is like all like major crimes are generally federal charges.
Yeah, so that's a problem, obviously. So you're telling me my buddy who was a lawyer that was approved to the Michigan Supreme Court was probably appointed as opposed to elected?
Probably. I don't know everything about Michigan and how they do that. So like that's a state court. Like I don't know if that is an appointment or if it is an election. I think most of them are appointments.
I think it's an appointment because honestly, I can't remember seeing a commercial for vote for so and so for Michigan Supreme Court. It doesn't sound right. I think it's got to be appointed.
Right. I just don't want to speak on it knowing that it is a state level thing, and we have some states that do some really crazy shit.
It's amazing that we managed to keep all these 50 states together all these years. I keep on waiting for someone to say, fuck it, I don't want to be part of the United States anymore. I'm out of here. California, mostly. I kind of thought that for years that they're going to try to be their own country.
They've got the economy for it.
Yeah. It's a good thing because they make all kinds of crazy laws and taxes and shit. It's a good thing they're a rich state with half the tax laws and shit like that they have there. Like certain states would fucking collapse under the weight of the taxes.
Yeah, they've gone overboard in a lot of the stupid shit they do, but like the problem is like they make a whole lot of fucking money for the country. You take that revenue away and all of a sudden like our deficits and debt are even worse.
Yes, indeedy. Yeah, well, there's a reason we keep them around. That and the funny movies.
But that's the thing. Like they are a large part of our population. So like people saying this shit like, we should just get rid of California or we should get rid of New York and shit like that. Like that's a big part of our population. Just because you don't agree with them, like the fact is, like they really do outnumber you. And like in what should be a democracy, which I know we don't actually have a democracy, like we don't need to go there. But like the majority of people think one way, and if people that are in the vast majority think of another way, they just want to get rid of them. Like that's stupid.
No, that's why I fucking hate politics. I'm so tired of hearing about what people think about stuff. I was like, I don't want to be rude, but I really want to say, I don't give a fuck what you think anymore. Go vote, okay? I don't care what your opinion is. You're not going to change what I think. I'm not going to try to change what you think, so shut the fuck up about it. I don't know. I'm guessing being grumpy old man.
I don't know. It's going to be a fucking madhouse come end of November. Like either way it goes, like everyone's going to freak the fuck out. No,
you're right. And I'll be honest with you. I'm starting to get concerned, mostly for myself, because I'm, ultimately a selfish person, and I'm worried about me. And I've always just wanted to live my life, work for the next 20 years, hopefully be able to retire at 65 to 70, and God willing, live another 10 or 15 years past that and enjoy my retirement. There's a good chance I'll die before that, but you can't plan for that shit. I'm starting to think that I might not get to do that, dude. There's serious fucking shit going on in this country. And I don't know. I may be worried about nothing, but this doesn't feel like business as usual. You hear about protests and things like that all the time. Between the COVID thing and the protests, it feels not right. I just feel I guess I'm being paranoid, but I have a feeling that I'm not going to get to have my nice little life in retirement and shit. It feels like that's not how it's going to go.
I'm just sick of the fact. I'm just sick of the fact that politics have become a team game. Like it's literally people rooting for their favorite sports team, and you get to the point where they can't admit their team does anything wrong or the other team does anything right. Like it's absolutely fucked. And like those people are being thick-headed and idiotic. And that's where you start getting these ideas of, like, you have people on the far, far left talking about how, like, there should be no cops, or we should, like, kill cops, or crazy shit like that. You got people on the far, far right talking about how we should just kill all the Democrats and how they're, you know, they're anti-America and shit like that. Like, all of those people need to just round themselves up onto an island somewhere, and we should sink the island.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and granted, like I said, I'm being paranoid, but I firmly think that the thought of like civil war is not. Sorry about that. The thought of civil war is not inconceivable. You know, like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or a year ago, I thought our country, while it had its problems, is going to be trucking right along for the conceivable future. And while I'm sure that's probably what's still going to happen, I don't like thinking about the fact that fucking I might not live my life in peace. There might be actual fucking war in our country and shit like that.
The thing is, there won't.
I don't want that shit.
There 100% will not. The problem that we have is the people that are very fringe on both sides are still the minority, even on those sides. It's just now they're the most fucking vocal because for some reason it's okay to spew just putrid shit. Yeah, no, I hope you're right, and you probably are. Obviously, like I said, I'm just thinking dark thoughts. Because I just want to live my small little life that I have in peace, and I don't bother anybody. I don't want anyone to bother me. Don't involve me in your shit. Just let me sit here and do my shit. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to change anybody's life. Just leave me alone. And it's starting to feel like I'm not going to get that. So I hope you're right and I'm wrong. It has to be. Like and people want to say like I'm some far left person because I generally try to have like a common sense kind of approach to most things. But for the most part, I'm pretty well down the middle. Like in my adult life, I have voted, at least for president, I voted for a Republican once, a Democrat twice, and third party once. Like I'm pretty much as varied as you can get, and all of that kind of carries down ballot as far as voting for some Republicans, some Democrats, things like that. And there's a lot of people like me.
Yeah.
Like
I'll be honest with you, at the last election, I didn't vote for anybody. I didn't like either of them. Like I don't want to vote for Clinton or I don't want to vote for Trump. So I'm just not going to vote this year. That's what I did. A lot of people were pissed off at me for that. They're like, "Oh, you wasted your vote. You got to take a side." I'm like, "Both sides fucking suck. I'm not taking a side."
That's where I was. I couldn't vote for Trump. I couldn't vote for Clinton. Like they're both terrible fucking candidates. Couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yep. Oh shit, dude! Look at the time, man. I guess we should probably wrap this shit up. I want to thank the OG Army for showing up. We can't have the show without you guys, and I want to thank Big Dalton for being the co-host that he is. Shit, Dalton, you got anything else?
I've got two things. Number one, just as a reminder, give Elmer Fudd his fucking gun back. And besides that, thank you, Mel Gibson, for bringing awareness to Puerto Rico.
I forgot about that one. What else you got?
That's a tough one. I think I'm gonna have to go with fuck all y'all.
We'll see everybody tomorrow at 6. You guys have a great night. Bye-bye.
Screw you, hippie!